What's going on, everyone? It is the Durf, and Cran lovers rejoice. I've got an exciting Prismatic Titan build for you guys. It centers around that infamous Stasis Super. It also takes advantage of one aspect that everybody loves to use in any kind of game content: consecration. This build is extremely powerful. You can spam abilities. You get your super back quick. You basically have unlimited transcendence as long as enemies are spawning in. And, oh, by the way, it is also a ton of fun. So if you do find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. But more importantly, if you do know a Titan lover out there who's looking for an excellent prismatic build that centers around stasis, as well as possibly spamming consecration and or other abilities, turn them towards me, because I'm going to have a lot of fun explaining this one to you guys. So without further ado, let's get on into it. So first up, we've got the Stasis Super Glacial Quake. Now, if you yourself haven't played around with this and this is your first time thinking about it, I'm telling you, this thing is a ton of fun to use. Slam into the ground, ice crystals pop up everywhere. Sorry, stasis crystals pop up everywhere. Smash them, or keep smashing the ground and creating more crystals. It is extremely potent with pretty much whatever boss you're in front of or champ, and really doesn't have a weakness. For abilities, I prefer the thruster, and I will explain why. It also has the lowest base cooldown of the three available. For melee, the frenzied blade, you can store up to 3 charges, and when you use it, you sever the target in front of you, dealing extra damage. For the grenade, I've got the Glacier Grenade. This is a personal choice because I want to be able to freeze more things, not just only on my super, but in regular game content to help me build my transcendence bar back, which I'm going to get into why you're going to want that. But the Glacier Grenade, in my opinion, is better as a darkness debuff than any of the others are with their own debuffs. For aspects, everybody's favorite, consecration. Slide and activate your charge melee, hit the button again, slam it to the ground, and any targets that were in front of you that were scorched are now going to ignite. This is by far the most powerful aspect that Titan has to offer. The second most powerful aspect that Titan has to offer is knockout. Critically wounding a target of breaking their shield infuses your melee attacks with arc energy and increases your melee range and damage for some time. When you defeat targets with melee, you become amplified. So not only do you have one of the most powerful supers in the game, not only do you have consecration, but oh wow, now you're going to be flying around at the speed of arc. Yes, I did just say that. For fragments, facet of purpose, a staple in all of my builds. Get your orbs of power going, and in this case, when you pick up an orb of power, you're going to instantly become amplified, so you're going to start sprinting all over the battlefield. It does have a -10 to recover, but we have a fix for that. I'm going to go over that here in a couple of minutes. Facet of balance, another staple in most of my builds, no matter what the class is. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. Both of these are going to be extremely important, but in order to be able to use your consecration more, you need to be killing enemies with light damage. In other words, both of your aspects play right into it. I pretty much only have the Frenzied Blade and the Glacier Grenade to give me my darkness transcendence energy back. So this is kind of a calculated move here, and when I go through the gameplay loop, you're going to be able to see it for what it is. Facet of protection is number 3. Because of the Titan build, you are going to be playing extremely aggressive. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While transcendent, the effect is increased. So if you have never played Titan before, it is sort of a acquired taste. You don't just approach Titan the same way you might approach Hunter and or Warlock. you are going to have to be aggressive in order for most of the builds you're ever going to come up with for your Titan to work and work well. So take the plus 10 on strength and take the additional resistance to incoming damage, because you will be surrounded by enemies on a regular basis. Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, final ability final blows grant bonus darkness transcendence energy. This is also a calculated thing here, because both your aspects are light energy aspects, and your main anti-clear weapon for this build is going to be a light weapon. Now, I have fixes for that if you don't have ability energy built up in the meantime to try to get yourself transcendent in the heat of battle. But take the plus 10 to discipline, and just trust me, you're going to get a huge bump to your darkness transcendence energy, so you can keep stunning everything else is around you. Last but not least, Facet of Ruin. Increase the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increases the area of effect of solar ignition. So this is a twofer. I don't really care about the plus 10 mobility. You do move relatively fast as a Titan, so it doesn't really matter. But this takes advantage of both your grenade and your consecration. So with your grenade, you're going to shatter those crystals and create a larger blast. And with consecration, your ignitions are going to be even bigger of an area of effect. For stat distribution, this is my personal preference for Titan. I like to focus on discipline and strength so I can get my ability energy back fast, as well as resilience. Resilience is what you should be focusing on, and then putting your mods into discipline and strength. Don't worry about recovery. We got a fix for that. Don't worry about mobility. It's a little bit higher than what I intended it on being, but this was just the way the cookie crumbled for me. And as far as intellect, you're going to see real quickly, we're not going to have a problem getting our super back, so just hang tight on that. For armor, this is going to be kind of a up to you choice, but I've got stasis and arc mods in here because I'm running stasis and arc weapons. And I try to focus that intentionally, because anytime that I'm not getting my ability energy back, or I'm lacking an orb of power in the heat of battle, I need my weapons to be able to carry it. And I don't care which weapon kills a couple of enemies fast. I just want it to get done now. One other thing that I have on here that I think is important for this build and will also help you get your super back is hands-on. Now, there are some debate out there how much ability energy for your super you get back on a melee kill. There's reports out there that sometimes you get about 3%. There's some places out there, if you dig far enough like I did, that will say, oh, you get up to 7% of your super energy. But typically speaking, even if it is 3% and you kill 10 enemies with your consecration slams, that counts as a melee kill. So do the math. That's 30%, and you've done basically nothing except enjoy one of the greatest aspects in Titan history. So just something to think about. You could also, if you wanted to, you could dump the harmonic siphon for the stasis rapid final blows, and you could put a second one of these on here. And according to what I'm seeing, it's somewhere between 5 to 10% energy back per melee kill when you have two of these. So that is huge if you really want to get your super back faster. For the arms, you can see how I have it set up here. I take advantage of the stat boost with my strength, and I've got 3 heavy-handed mods equipped. This is important because right now for this season, all of these are discounted to 1 energy. Ordinarily, these would be 3 apiece, so the most I could put on with a 3 energy buff to my first slot there is 2. And I wouldn't even have enough left over to put on a harmonic loader at the end of it. So you're going to be amplified a lot, so I don't think it's necessary to put a weapon reload speed adjuster on here. And if you are focusing on building your discipline and strength, you should not need fonts to boost yourself every time you pick up an orb of power. So what this is going to do is, and you've heard me talk about this on other builds, every single heavy-handed mod on here has an additional thing as far as the countdown. There's a countdown that's silent to how often you can produce these orbs of power when you get a melee kill. If you have one heavy-handed mod equipped, it's 10 seconds between melee kills before you'll see another orb of power. If you have 2 of them equipped, it drops down to 5. And finally, if you have 3 equipped, it drops down to 1. So ordinarily on a lot of my builds, especially for Warlock and Hunter, I usually have a firepower mod added in there so that I can spam my abilities back and forth, back and forth. However, because I've got the glacial grenade on, I'm not counting on that to kill anything, but I am counting on that to freeze. So kind of a calculated thing here. You should be getting all of your orbs of power from either your weapons, your super, or your melee kills. And if you're not used to using your melee, in other words, you've never played that style before, make sure you take it to a spot you feel comfortable in and just get used to the gameplay loop. It is not something that you're just going to pick up the controller and everything is going to make sense. It is a specific way of playing. Running around and punching things is not what you ordinarily do with Warlock or Hunter. With Titan, it absolutely is. And with Consecration, being amplified and running faster, you're going to have to be very familiar with what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. But get your orbs of power, and oh, by the way, every melee kill you get that spawns an orb of power, the potency is higher than previous. So kind of a twofer on this one. For chest armor, very straightforward. I'm running 2 stasis weapons, so I'm going to want the stasis reserves. Or if you don't have 2 stasis weapons, but you want to get bonus reserves for whichever your heavy weapon is, put the reserve mod on that you want. They're all 2 energies, so it literally doesn't matter what you do. Just put a reserve mod on. Otherwise, if you don't have a problem getting heavy ammo, maybe you just don't use your heavy that much, you can put another damage resist mod on here and further boost your resist on top of already having that prismatic fragment for resistance from damage from enemies when you're surrounded. And then what you put on here, I recommend putting on a 3 energy mod, but whatever you need help with, put it on here because you're going to have at least 1 left over as long as you're putting 2 in these other ones, and this is masterworked. For legs, this one I go back and forth on all the time. I do have a harmonic scavenger mod on, but I could easily drop that and put another invigoration mod on. Or if I'm running a GM, I'll put a recuperation mod on because I'm not spamming my heavy during a GM because, you know, your ammo crates are at an all-time low for spawn rate. So whatever activity you're doing, make sure you have yourself outfitted. But absolutely, I recommend, at minimum, put invigoration on. If you put nothing else on there, put invigoration on. But ideally, I'll put invigoration, absolution on. That's 4 energies for 2 mods. You still have room for a strength mod if you need it, or a discipline, or by the way, you still have space for a 4 energy mod as well. It will almost max you out, but it'll leave you enough room if you're not running a stasis heavy weapon and you want to have the scavenger mod on. All the rest of them that don't match your super are 3 energies. So I purposely did this so that I could run different heavy weapons, which I'm going to go over here in a minute. Something to think about with whatever you're doing. But if you are running a GM, I highly recommend just putting recuperation on. You're going to have resistance, but getting health is important as well. Last but not least, the Titan Mark. I do have this thing masterworked, and you can see how I've got it modded. It's a little bit different than how I've got it set up for, let's say, Warlock or Hunter builds, if you've seen those in the past. I'm taking advantage of my Masterwork, my Artifice Armor mod, and I'm also taking advantage of a boost to my Grenade Energy. So The first and foremost thing that I want on here is I want to be able to replenish my health as fast as possible, so I'm putting on Font of Restoration. The next two are kind of up to you. You are going to be using your class ability because it is very nice using that thruster to get out of a gaggle of enemies that are around you and damaging you consistently. However, in this instance, I really would like to just get my melee back faster. So every time I use my class ability, I'm going to forego the Orb of Power and I'm going to get that ability back faster. But I don't think you can go wrong with both Outreach or one Outreach and one Reaper. You're going to be using it regularly, the class ability. Just wait. Once you get used to the gameplay, you're going to see. And it's going to help you. I mean, everything that you can do with this Titan, if you cycle through it, is going to help you a lot. One thing that is important to note for this Titan mark is the armor perks that I have specifically for this stasis build. The first one being Spirit of Hoarfrost. Your barricade becomes a wall of stasis crystals. So this is also why I have the thruster selected, because of the very low cooldown. If I've got my thruster ability recharged and I activate that inside of a group of enemies, it's going to create crystals that slow the nearby enemies when I activate my thruster. So this pairs perfectly with the Hoarfrost aspect of this Titan mark. So that's another reason why it's better than any barricade that you're going to put on. Also, I have Spirit of Synthoceps. Improves melee damage when you're surrounded. Now, the only downfall of this perk is that it doesn't boost your super damage like regular Synthoceps does. So if you don't have this Titan mark, you absolutely can substitute this Titan mark for a Synthoceps and take advantage of the melee damage buff as well as the super energy buff, or excuse me, the super damage buff as well to your Glacial Quake. It activates for both of those. So just something to think about when you're farming for these Titan marks. And if you haven't gone through Dual Destiny yet and you want to be able to get these Titan marks, I highly encourage you to seek out help if you need help, or grab one of your buddies and just dedicate an evening to try to getting it done, because I'm telling you, this Titan mark is absolutely worth the trouble to get for this build. For weapons, I know I'm going to get some debate on this, but hear me out. I'm running the Lost Signal for the Overload stun capability, as well as the AoE effect of taking down enemies, and for bonus darkness transcendence energy. I can't get transcendent if I'm not dealing damage with dark energy weapons. If I am dealing with shooting weapons for a period of time. So I need to have something in my kinetic slot that gives me a good bump. And because it's a special weapon or special ammo weapon, it does increase the meter. It does fill that meter faster than just a primary. For this build, there really is only one clear choice for Act 3 Revenant, and that is the Vantage Point. The reason this is important is because you can stun two different kinds of champs with this build right here. You can stun Overload, and you can stun Unstoppable with Jolting Feedback. You got the Pulse Rifle intrinsic perk for your artifact that stuns Unstoppables, and you also stun Overloads when you inflict them with Jolt. So if you do happen to find yourself in a situation where you are going to see all three champs, I have a fix for that, which I'm going to go over here in a couple of seconds. But for right now, let's just leave it at this. I'm going to go over my heavy. All right, if you haven't pulled Salvation's Grip out, or you have not done the Beyond Light campaign or some of the side missions that allow you to get Salvation's Grip, I encourage you to go find this thing and start practicing. Salvation's Grip is a charged weapon, much like a fusion rifle, except it's a grenade launcher. You're going to take advantage of a couple of things because it is a grenade launcher, but in the heat of battle, you spawn stasis crystals and you freeze nearby targets. So if you were wondering how I'm stunning barriers, I'm technically not. I'm just pulling Salvation's Grip out and freezing them and then making sure I kill them right after, which you can do even in the hardest of content. For the artifact, there's a lot of different options that you can debate me on in here. One of them being that I don't have many stasis ones selected, but hear me out. Unstoppable Pulse Rifle, that's a given. Overload Breach Loaded Grenade Launcher. This one you can debate me on. If you are going to be going against that barrier champ and you don't have Salvation's Grip, or you don't like it and you want to just use a shotgun, switch just this one out for the shotgun and your vantage point will still be able to cover you for overload as well as unstoppable champs. Authorized mods, this goes without saying. You get discounted melee mods, which is why all of those mods on my arms are just 1 energy cost. All right, here's where we're going to start debating. Fell the Revenant. I always have this equipped, but if you do find yourself not in an activity with Scorn, or you just don't want this on here, you can easily switch this to Enhanced Ether Generator. Dark Ether Reaper origin trait is on the vantage point, so you can spawn those Dark Ether charges. And then weapons with the Dark Ether Reaper origin trait are always overcharged when this modifier is active. So just something to think about, but I have it on Fell the Revenant. Rapid impacts. Dealing damage with the grenade launcher temporarily increases the reload speed of grenade launchers. So you see, I've got 2 grenade launchers in my build. I'm taking full advantage of this because if I do need to spam it, especially the lost signal, I want to have a little bit bonus to my reload speed. Rapid precision hits. This is trace evidence. Rapid precision hits or rapid final blows on targets affected by jolt or blind will generate ionic traces. Ionic traces give you ability energy back. So absolutely put trace evidence on because you're using an arc weapon to do your main ad clear. The thick of it, rapid final blows while surrounded grant you armor charge. This is not specific to weapon or ability. So if you are running Consecration and you are running into the heart of the lion's den, so to speak, in everything that you do, you're going to get free armor charges for it. So take it. Get your ability energy back faster. In this instance, boost your health regen with your recovery font of recovery. Or font of, oh my goodness, I'm blanking here. Yeah, font of restoration. Hail the Storm. Shattering stasis crystals releases shards of ice that damage and slow targets. Now, if I was not running Salvation's Grip, I probably wouldn't have this one on, simply because Glacial Quake is already powerful enough as it is, and typically I'm only busting it out to deal with very tough enemies, either bosses or higher end champs. I'm not necessarily relying on this for the Salvation's Grip either, but because it plays so well into the Crystal Shatter and I want that extra slow damage, I think you're going to want that too on your build. Concussive Reload. Using a grenade launcher to damage a boss, champ, or break a shield weakens them. Weakened targets take more damage. Say it with me. Weakened targets take more damage. So why wouldn't you have this selected if you're running Lost Signal? Always run this. And the other good thing about Concussive Reload, as well as Rapid Impacts, is it does not specifically say it has to be a specific type of grenade launcher. So use whatever grenade launcher you want. And, oh, by the way, I am. Retinal Burn. Rapid arc weapon precision hits consume an armor charge to blind the target. This is key here. Blind basically slows all enemies down no matter what they are or who they are, whether they're champs or regular red bars. So put this on because you're going to be spamming that jolting feedback. So keep the buffs and the debuffs flowing. Curative Orbs. I think this is non-negotiable for most builds, but the first time you break a target shield or break the shield of a Guardian using their super, you create an Orb of Power. I don't care about breaking the shield of a Guardian using their super because I'm not probably not taking this build into PvP, but on the offhand chance that I do, I'm still going to have Curative Orb selected. You can further boost this by putting the tonic on, and you pick up an Orb of Power, an elemental pickup or a tangle grants you a small amount of health back. But if you've got your Font of Restoration enabled like I do, I'm not really worried about wasting a tonic on this. But Curative Orbs, get another Orb of Power free of charge. Last but not least, Brain Freeze. Now this one, some people are probably going to debate me on. The most popular debate's probably going to be, Durf, why don't you have Arc Compounding on? Arc sources deal increased damage to blind targets. When I've got Arc Weapon Precision hits, consume the armor charge to blind the target. The reason I don't is I'm already inflicting Jolt. That's the reason. But if you feel like you want this as opposed to Brain Freeze, by all means, I don't think you can really go wrong. The only reason why I have Brain Freeze on, because I'm using Salvation's grip, I'm running a Stasis Super specifically, and typically what my play style is when a champ spawns, if there's a gaggle of enemies around them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot one charge shot from Salvation's grip at that champ, and it's going to create those stasis crystals. I'm going to shatter all of them, kill all the enemies around, get my frost armor, because that's what the catalyst gives you, by the way, if you didn't know that. And if there's any still remaining, in other words, if it's a champ and maybe a tougher yellow bar or a tougher red bar, I'm going to get that cloud of slow that not only slows the champ down themselves, but it's also going to slow down any enemies that maybe I didn't hit with that charge shot. So I think this is a win-win for you. I don't need Supernova. I'm not really running an Arc ability, Void ability. I'm not really picking up Stasis Shards or Void Breaches. And I already have an unstoppable champ stunning weapon, so I don't really need kinetic impacts either. This is the only one, Arc Compounding, that people might debate me on. And honestly, you might debate me on Hail the Storm too, but I think both of these work in tandem with what we're trying to do with the stasis aspect of this build. Now, weapon alternates. I kind of already went over this, but if you don't want to use Lost Signal, you don't like the way it feels, or you don't have a good roller, you haven't crafted yet, or maybe you're just not used to using grenade launchers in your primary slot, that's fine. You can easily swap this out for your favorite shotgun, and now you're going to have the ability to stun barrier champs with a couple of shots. If you don't like Salvation's grip, you can easily swap this out with a VS Chill inhibitor. I got Demolitionist and Bait and Switch. It works very, very well. You can also put the Arc Wave Frame grenade launcher on if you have that. Because of the chain reaction, that counts as an arc buff or debuff, depending on how you look at it. Or you can substitute this entirely for good old Thunderlord or Microcosm. Again, you can't really go wrong here. Most of these are going to have good AoE damage and also very good boss damage. So I think any one of these 5 are going to do you justice in the power weapon slot. But I think Salvation's Grip, because we are running stasis specific, I think that's going to be worth it. And it also pairs with your ammo finders and your bonus reserves with the Lost Signal. But if you do switch out of an exotic and you put this one on, or you put the inhibitor on, and you want to try something froggy, I recommend getting conditional finality, dusting that off, and putting that in the kinetic slot. This thing does amazing single target damage. And oh, by the way, the stasis pellets slow/freeze the target, and the solar pellets scorch the target. So you're going to get extra damage on a single target if you're using conditional finality. So hello, every champ that comes in front of me. How are you doing today? Pop, pop. And I've got 2 buffs going and 2 debuffs going on the enemy that I just shot at. And oh, by the way, it's got very fast reload speed. So you're not really going to miss out on the normal reload speed that a shotgun takes anyways. But if you don't have conditional finality, you can also use Osteostriga. Now, I just kind of went over this in one of my other builds for Warlock, but Osteostriga also stuns Overload champs. So if you are thinking that you might want to fire from a distance and you want to try to use that glacial grenade to stun an overload, a barrier, this will be a good substitute for having a lost signal or no shotgun. The reason why I'm bringing this up is the GM of the week for this week, and again, this is this week, next week is next week, you're going to run into Overload and Unstoppable Champs. So I'm not going to be taking a barrier stunning weapon in anyways. If it happens, it happens. I'm also not running Radiant on this build as well because of that. But if for some reason you are going to be seeing all three champs and you want the capability to stun all three champs, you might, and you don't want to use Salvation's Grip, you could swap this out for one of these two legendary grenade launchers or the grenade launcher of your choice. There's Korax's Distresses out there. I mean, really any of them are good. You can still take advantage of the artifact perk, but then I recommend putting on Conditional Finality so you can pop those barrier bubbles and use your vantage point to continually inflict damage and stun Unstoppables and Overload champs. Now, if you did want to make one substitution, you could substitute the Glacial Grenade for the Shackle Grenade. The reason I'm not doing it is because I don't really care about the suspending detonations, because that's exactly what's going to be happening when I go Transcendent anyways. So, and the name of the game is to be as aggressive as possible with the Titan. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing this down and I'm either shooting my lost signal at it or I'm pulling out Consecration and I'm slamming it to bits. And I'm going to scorch every target that doesn't get killed by the shatter, and I'm going to shatter every target that doesn't get killed by the scorch. So kind of a twofer on that one, but you can kind of play how you want. The other thing that you might want to consider if you want to is if you aren't quite sure that you're going to be surrounded by enemies consistently, you could theoretically swap Facet of Protection out for Facet of Dawn, and that means power melee hits make you radiant. So you could throw this down on a barrier champ. You're going to be radiant for about 10 seconds. And if you actually kill an enemy with a powered melee hit, i.e. Consecration, you're going to make all your allies radiant as well. So if they don't have barrier piercing weapons, now they do for 10 seconds. So depending on the activity that you're running, you may want to swap those two out, especially if you're going to be shooting at a distance for the majority of the activity. Thinking of things that have some platforming and those things might just be something to consider. So you're making your powered melee hits count a little bit more because you're doing them less, if that makes sense. So that is the build. Again, I know there's going to be some debate on what to use here. Consecration, a staple in most Titans inventory right now. The Knockout sometimes is in the inventory, sometimes it's the Diamond Lance. And then obviously, you know, with the artifact and there being so many mods to choose from and you only get 12 selections, which I hate, there's going to be some debate on which ones are more important than the others. But this works very well for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my normal build test here. I'm going to take you into Altars of Sorrows, and I'm going to show you in real time when you've got allies around you how the gameplay is going to go. Honestly, I think you're going to get the hang of it. Your toughest adjustment if you don't play Titan regularly, and this is the video that hopefully convinces you to at least give Titan a try, take some time to practice. Titan is not a one-size-fits-all. It's a very niche style of play, which means you have to be okay being uncomfortable the entire activity you're playing, because that's your job as a Titan, is to be the grunt, to be the one that's running further ahead than everybody else, into danger further along than non-Titans. It's just the way it is. Warlocks float, Hunters dodge, Titans smash. But either way, this build is a ton of fun, even if you're not completely comfortable with the buttons yet, and you're not completely comfortable with the style of play. Just give it a go. Take it over to Altars of Sorrow. Take it into your favorite campaign mission. Take it into, not a Vanguard, but take it into your favorite Vanguard mission on whatever planet you like, and just try it out and see how it works for you. And as the more you play with this build, I think the more powerful it's going to become for you. Again, thank you guys for all of your support. If you do find anything helpful in this video, please like and subscribe. Or if you know a Titan that's looking for a really great build that centers around stasis specifically, as well as consecration spamming and the overall prismatic lifestyle that we all live now, send them my way. And you guys can also get at me on my Discord if you have any, build help or requests, or, you want to see the method behind the madness. I do post updates in there as well. So, all right, guys, the Altars of Sorrow. This is my favorite place to build test and just get a general idea of how things can be when I'm either running solo or running harder content. So here we go. Looks like I'm the only one in this one. I'm going to start taking advantage of my abilities and using them to further the progress of my transcendence bars. So it looks like I got my super back first. So here we go. I'm just going to keep going and going and going. All right, I got my transcendence maxed here. So here we go. I'm going to show you how this works. Pop your transcendence. And here you go. You can spam consecration almost endlessly and just use it over and over again. You can see that my transcendence with each kill is just going up and up and up. So I've been running transcendence for about 10-15 seconds. And oh, by the way, because I'm doing melee attacks, I'm getting my super back even quicker. So I just ended that, killing a moderate amount of enemies, and as you can see, I'm amplified, which is big, and the ability bar, when that altar finally despawned, was still at 50%. So even with the moderate amount of enemies, not the most that you would even see in like an onslaught activity, for example, now I've got my super energy, because every melee kill procs my super regen more and more. And every melee kill also boosts my, you guessed it, my super. And as you can see, your super does count, if you didn't know, for the transcendence energy regen. So it's kind of important to think about how you're going to be playing. In other words, are you going to start shooting first to get your ability energy built up? Or are you going to spam an ability to get amplified? Or do you want to get some explosions going so you can get that bonus transcendence energy for darkness? Or however you want to do it. You can see right now I've dialed it back because I'm just recharging and recharging and recharging. But once I get some abilities back, I'm not worried about, am I going to be short in ability? Am I going to be doing enough damage? Am I going to be doing enough, getting enough orbs of power? This build is truly the complete masterpiece for a Titan lover. So if you like being up close and personal with enemies, this is the build for you. And you can see all I've been doing is waiting until enemies spawn, and I'm spamming consecration, and my transcendence still hasn't run out. I'm not even using the grenade, and I'm still, there you go. See, I still had 25%, 25, 30%. Oh, by the way, here's all the orbs that I created. So if I didn't have my super, I sure as heck would after picking all those up. So that's the build. Now you can take it to your favorite farm spot. You can take it to Grasp of Avarice. You can take it to an Onslaught Salvation. You can take it to Tomb of Elders. You can take it to your favorite Vanguard Strike. Wherever you want to take it, that's where you're going to see it really come to life. I don't recommend this for farming overthrows, simply because overthrows comparatively are boring since you're constantly looking for enemies instead of enemies coming to you, like in this activity or in an Onslaught, or even an endgame style activity like a GM. But this is where this build really shines. This build shines in chaos. So the more chaos the activity, the more you're going to love this build, because you're just going to be proccing every ability over and over and over again. So anyways, I'm going to run through it one more time here, but like I said, it's going to be up to you how you want to play. There's not going to be a right or wrong way to play. You know, you're going to find out which way works best for you. But I highly recommend doing, getting your transcendence energy bar up as high as possible, as fast as possible, and then letting your abilities carry you the rest of the way. Again, you can still pick enemies off from a distance like I'm doing now, and you're still going to get something out of it. I would be stunning Unstoppables and Overload champs right now if I was in a Legend Lost sector, or excuse me, I guess they're called Expert Lost sectors, and all these things are just going to be so complimentary to you, no matter how crazy the activity seems like it's getting. So here we go. I'm going to use the rest of my melee, and then I'm going to show you. Well, see, I already got it back because of the orbs of power. But again, spam, spam, spam your consecration. And oh, by the way, every melee kill, like I said, you get more super energy back. You can see the orbs on the screen are piling up. You can see, even if you don't see the orbs, you can see the notifications on the screen. And it's just that simple. Oh, I went into one of those clouds. That's the only thing that's going to slow you down, is if a wizard throws one of those clouds at you. So, but again, I got something for the wizard. So that's the build. If you did find anything helpful in this video, like I said, please consider liking and subscribing. You can get at me directly on my Discord if you want me to help you make builds, or you want to just see how I, you know, go through the process. I do bounce ideas off people in there and just say, hey, what do you think of this? You know, is this something you guys would use? Is this something you guys would like? Or, hey, is there a build that you've been trying to perfect that maybe you're having a little bit of trouble perfecting? You know, what do you want me to do? And that's how I try to create these videos, so as to help as many people that are looking for help as possible. But feel free to share this video with a Titan lover like myself, and let them know their favorite ability spam, or their ability in consecration, can in fact be spammed under the right circumstances. So guys, I'll get back to it here. I'm going to create some more videos and start releasing them here every week. But I will see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care.